After years of having a corporate career, you come to a country where you're not allowed to work. That was the situation of spouses with H1 visas in the US in 2012. With no line of sight of what the future held, my next guest just didn't while time away. Clinging on to hope, she researched, upskilled herself, and decided to take a shot in the dark, start her own line of fine art jewelry. When could she start? Nobody knew. But that didn't stop her from researching on the supply chain process or touch basing with artisans in India. After 4 long years, finally the US government gave spouses the permission to work. Thus, Glitter Trunk was born in 2016 and thriving since. This is what hope, tenacity, open mindedness, and focus does. Please welcome one of the finest women entrepreneurs I know, Nitra Singh from New Jersey, USA. And I'm Candy, your host for the show. Do not forget to like and subscribe. I hope you enjoy. Hello. Who do we have here today? Nitra, how are you?
Hey Candy, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Great to have you at Candid with Candy. Thank you so much again for making time. So Nitra, you guys came to the US in the year 2012, right? And I believe your husband is on the H1 visa. At that point in time, the spouses of H1B visas were not even allowed to work. And you'd worked you were independent in India, in your own country. And all that suddenly changed overnight for you when you came to the States. I really wanted to understand what was going on in your mind, knowing that you weren't allowed to work.
So my husband was here before I moved here. He was studying around Arizona, and then he was working in the US. And then we got married, moved here. It was an interesting transition. I tried a lot with my company. They were willing to transfer me as long as I was in Virginia. The office that I was working with in India was actually part of a US-based company, and they were willing to transition me as long as I work out of Virginia. And after being in a long-distance relationship for almost 4 years, I wasn't ready to do that. So I came prepared, and I've always been someone who's very happy in the moment. So I said, we'll figure it out. I tried to apply to a few different places. I was working as a graphic designer at the time, and there were only one option. You had to go and find yourself a sponsor. So there were not too many companies that were willing to sponsor H1B for a graphic designer, even though I had a long career in that. So I had to take a break, and it was good. It was good in the beginning. I enjoyed being at home, relaxing, catching up on all the reruns and cooking, and it was a brand new life. And then it started to, get to me a little bit. All fun, but you also need that one grounding factor. And then my husband was basically a big supporting factor. And he said, why don't you study something? Use this time, study something, groom yourself, volunteer. So I was still in connection with my people in India. One of my directors had transitioned to a nonprofit, and she needed some help. So I started working with her overseas. And that was a good feeling, going back to work and doing something good. I was doing a lot of volunteer work for the organization.
How many years did you do this for after you came here?
4 years. Wow. It was for 4 years. There were all these conversations at the time about an executive order going in place, where the spouses of technically expert H1Bs can also work. And it was in 2016 that President Obama sort of announced the executive order where people who have to meet certain criteria, their spouses can work as well. So My husband's awesome with paperwork, and it was literally as soon as the order was arrived, he was kind of ready with everything to go for me, and we filed the paperwork. In 2016, I could officially start working.
Fantastic. Yeah, that would have been quite a relief.
2014, I decided I'm gonna start an entrepreneurial business. That became my profession. That became my work. So I would dedicate hours, like you would in a 9 to 5, to work on your business, even though there was no paperwork in my hand at the
Right,
point. But
right,
I did everything that I could do to be prepared. So there's a lot that goes into it.
right.
You have to research the business, you have to research the market, you have to research the audience, you have to know what you're doing, deep dive into it, the branding of the business. So these were all things that I could be prepared without being allowed to work, legally. So I did all of that. I did the trademarking of my company, all things that I could do without any financial interaction between me and a client. So when 2016 the order came, it was ready to go. So I did not waste even one day, 1 minute. It was a lot. It was as a solopreneur, you're responsible for everything. So I was responsible for setting up the supply chain. So I remember every time I used to go back home to visit family, I would set time aside to literally take my backpack and go into these tiny little nooks and corners of the jewelry markets in different places in India. So, having done that journey, having that time was a blessing at the point. And I wanted to work with the core artisans. I wanted to work with the artisans. I did not want to work with people in the supply chain. um, you know, Wanted to understand what they are putting into it. What is the product that I'm bringing to the US? And doing that is basically how you create that foundation for your business, which is what keeps it going.
So now that you talked about, actually getting to the source of the products, they must be, again, I'm assuming, and I hope I'm not stereotyping, but I'm sure there are a lot of women involved at the source. And that's very, very interesting. Do you actually keep in touch with them? Or, how does that work?
The pandemic has affected that a lot because every time I went back home, and I would go once or twice a year pre-pandemic, some of the work that I used to do before had to do a lot with me being involved in the process of creation of the product. So I would literally go once a year, sort of share what I wanted with them. And then we would keep working back and forth through WhatsApp and video calls and phone calls and stuff. That's been challenging with the pandemic. It's not as much working with the source of who are creating it as it is. I've had to change a little bit on my supply chain as well, only because of the fact that I can't travel anymore. Having seen the kind of work they do, and I don't have a course in jewelry designing per se, but these artisans are the ones who've taught me, how to do things, what things are possible to do in a certain style, skill of work, what things are not possible to do. When I speak to my clients, it's not just providing products to them, it's also sort of educating them and working with them to do some custom pieces.
It's very interesting because if you know the source and, like you rightly said, the education that they give you, and when in turn you, sell these to your clients, you can probably talk about the history of whatever that piece of
Absolutely.
jewelry is, why it's made a certain way, which part of the country do you get it from. I think when you sell this, your jewelry with all these stories, it's just so much more meaningful,
It is.
when
Absolutely. It adds a lot of value to the product, and it adds a story to the piece. And when people wear it, they also feel proud of wearing their heritage.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
in another country.
So from a graphic designer to a jewelry designer slash curator, that shift, how, I mean, were you always interested in jewelry?
I've always said creativity is fluid. the expertise obviously changes. I got interested in jewelry in 2012 when I got married. So before I got married, you know how in India you have all this
Oh, yeah,
gifts and jewelry that comes from the family.
of
I
course.
told my mom, I said, look, mom, I don't want something to keep in my bank locker. Like, I want something that I will use and something that I'm going to cherish, you know. And then the whole process started. My uncles, my mamus are in jewelry box business. So they knew a lot of jewelers who do the work, the actual creation. So my mom said, okay, here's the cash, here's the gold, and you do what you want to do. And that's where that kicked in, like that whole thing of putting jewelry together and creating those designs, reaching out to these karigars and working with them. That is where my passion for jewelry began. And I didn't even know at that point that I will get into a jewelry business.
What made you so sure? Like you said that, you had about 2 years lead time, before your business actually started. Because a lot of people, when they are left with, in a situation like yours, right? And there are like 10 options that one can pursue. How did you narrow it down to, okay, you know what? I've never done jewelry in my life. I've never been a designer or a curator, but this is something I want to do. Like, how did you set it in stone?
I think I like the fact that I'm a very good person at knowing what I can't do. So,
Good one.
so I knew I'm not gonna be someone in finance, and I knew I'm not gonna be someone who's gonna sit at a desk 9 to 5. And so I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to do something for my own self. So that was number one. Number two was I wanted to do something creative. So initially I wanted to do like something in graphic designing and have like a design house or something. Um, Explored that. There was too much of it in the market. Jewelry was, again, like I said, when I got into it in 2012, it was sort of, how you say, subconsciously the idea was inceptionalized into my head. And then I kept exploring, I kept looking, I kept going through magazines and found these beautiful websites that had fine jewelry. And I would look at those elements. And it wasn't something that I was doing on purpose. It was just something that was pulling me towards it. So, it was funny because it didn't feel like work. It was something that I was enjoying. I was looking at pictures of jewelries for 2, 3 hours, 4 hours a day, and not feeling like I'm doing something which is work. So all that sort of pulls you to it. And then it brought me to a point. And it's funny, like a lot of people ask me, how did you come up with the name? How did you come up with the logo? How did you come up with the branding for your business? And it is really miraculous how it just sort of hit me. It literally hit me. I used to sit and do my research and stuff. If you searched in 2012 glitter trunk, it used to show pictures of men in glittery Speedos.
Oh yeah,
It was glitter,
right.
like the trunks that men wear. And that's how sure I was that I'm going to flip this around. That thankfully now when you do search glitter trunk, our website and our pictures and stuff, and again, no SEO done there. But it just organically populates to something else. But that's how sure I was of the name. It just helped me sort of ruling out everything that I don't want to do to what I do want to do.
Did you take up any course on the whole supply chain?
Not really. My family, my uncles are into export.
Oh
So
yeah.
I had long chats with them. I sort of, not everything that they did obviously applied to what I wanted to do. But thankfully, I was blessed to have people around me who could sort of coach me. And I kept an open ear, kept an open mind, took all the education I could take from them. And then obviously now we have so many online resources that if you really focus and you sort of look it up, you will find enough information online. So I kind of did a lot of self-coaching and teaching myself.
If you can tell us about probably like the top 2, 3 difficulties that you faced.
I think one of the biggest challenges is learning to work for yourself. So You have to have that discipline, you have to have that focus. And again, you have to remember, like, I was doing my work without knowing that I can do the work. It was a new market. So we had moved from Illinois to New Jersey, and I didn't know a soul. My husband and I, when we moved here, so we didn't know anyone over here who could even tell me how to register a company in New Jersey. Like, I literally signed up on these women meetups where, it was literally like women entrepreneurs were meeting to exchange ideas, to learn from each other, to meet each other. So that was a big challenge for me to know where to start. Where do you start when you decide to do a business? What is the first step that you take? Because there are so many steps, it can be overwhelming.
There was so much of unknown, for you. Sometimes you don't know whether you're just shooting in the dark, and yet that faith that you had is what kept you going. And it's a message for the rest of the people who actually want to do something like this, that the beginning will be scary, right? There's no escaping that, right? And the beginning will be unsure. It'll be full of crazy things that are unexpected, but you have to go through that if you want to become the next entrepreneur, right? There's no other way. So probably the last one, right? What are your future plans for growth?
My business has always been something of a very boutique business. It's, something where I know my clients. I know about my clients. I want to keep it to that. So I want to have that one-on-one interaction with my clients. In terms of the growth, I really want to have the business on a few different platforms. So at this moment, our business is primarily through the live that I do. We have the website, but I want to grow as the technology grows. So I think the next step for us would be to have, some influencers or people who can take the brand out there.
Welcome to Candid with Candy's Rapid Fire. With me today, I have Nitra all the way from New Jersey. India or the US?
I would say US, and then just bring all my family and friends over here.
What's your favorite drink?
Oh my God, it changes all the time. Mojitos.
Do you like the snow or do you like sunshine?
Sunshine, 100%.
Do you have a favorite TV show?
Friends.
Okay.
Old and classic.
Name one celebrity that annoys you.
Arjun Kapoor.
Arjun Kapoor. You don't like Arjun?
Yeah, I cannot stand him. No, I don't like his face. Don't tell him. I have a feeling he'll just put his face.
Yeah, he'll have to watch this to find out, right? What's your favorite activity with the daughter?
Her bedtime.
So thank you so much for your time, Nitra. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, Candy. Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Don't forget to check out the rest of my videos for more of these amazing stories. Till next week, thank you very much and take care.